Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 2 of Air Quality Matters. I'm Drew Dintaman with Aeroqual, the business development manager here in the US. And it's great news. They brought us back for a second episode. We'll see about the second season, I guess, later. But today, my guest is Paul Thurlow, and Paul is with Geo-Instruments. Geo-Instruments is a channel partner of Aeroqual's. And so, Paul, welcome. Happy New Year. And would you introduce yourself to our audience, please?
Thank you very much, and Happy New Year to you all. Yes, so Geo-Instruments is a geotechnical, structural, and environmental monitoring service company. It's been around since 2003, right across North America. We have offices in Europe, and I look after the Western region, which is basically the divide from California to Dakota and straight down the line down to Texas. And as part of our services to these regions, we do provide environmental services, which is dust, noise, and vibration. And at the moment, we've got about 10 to 11 dust monitors out on various sites right across the US.
All right. Thanks, Paul, for that intro. So you guys are, as far as these dust monitoring projects go, I mean, you're in the thick with your clients of remediation, construction, projects. And, when it comes to air monitoring, I'll ask you a simple question. What's the biggest challenge, or what are the biggest challenges that you guys have to solve on these projects?
Well, with the way that we do business, we're able to give, the client a complete package, and usually dust is not on his mind, when we get inquiries. And
right.
Structural monitoring to be priced and to be put in place. But then with the noise and vibration, increasingly, especially in California, there is a requirement to measure dust on most sites where there's an excavation. There's a couple of rules out now which have been on for the last year and a half. That we've got a link here to some of those in California. And they do require dust monitors to be put at the perimeter of sites. And usually with most of the sites that we see, one, you've got a security guard on a fence and no power, and then you have to run these systems 24/7 because that's a requirement. So that's where we can offer a bit more of a value-added service to dust monitoring by providing vibration, noise, and dust accumulated together in one package, and we run those off a big solar panel and a very secure charging unit.
Okay, so let's talk about that because there are a lot of different variables on these projects, but one thing that's pretty constant is it costs a lot to go out to site, and some of these sites are very remote. So, even though it seems like kind of a simple piece, or one of the last things that sometimes you talk about is the power solution. Talk about what you guys do for these air monitors on site, especially like a remote site where either you can't go to site very often and you want these things to run continuously, or it's just truly remote.
Well, that's the beauty about the business we're in, and the system that Aeroqual can offer is that once you deliver it on site, you don't have to go back. That's it's very rarely. We've had jobs now running 2 years where the only reason we go back is to do the yearly calibration on the unit. The solar power systems that we put in are suitable enough to not require any maintenance. And you've got to remember that the systems we put in are running the heating inlet on the unit 24/7, which is the great advantage of these units is that you completely dry out the dust, especially in coastal regions, which California, we have a lot of work in the larger cities, and most of those are by the sea. So you have fogs and cold temperatures, and sometimes when you don't heat the inlets, you get very large particles coming through, which are throwing false data. Also, a lot of these sites on the perimeter, you can't get to them. We have some units we've installed, and we know we'll get back to those in 2 or 3 years' time. There's just simply no access. So, that's where we come into play, is that we can provide the complete package from planning it, providing the power to the unit and the maintenance. And of course, with the online data that you get, and you can get that every minute, it's just a good solution.
Yeah. So I'm looking at a picture here. This looks like one of the setups you have with a battery box and a solar panel. out on the project site?
Yeah, that we installed about 3 of those for a project in just outside San Francisco, and the reason there is a very large housing estate that was being constructed, and we need to know the contribution across the site, obviously because of the wind direction, but particularly in this case, the client was having to pay an awful lot of money to clean some boats in the marina, which was attributed to the site. But in fact, by using these dust monitors, we're able to show that the contribution from the site, the dust contribution was coming from somewhere else completely.
Right. So actually, I want you to back up there because, I want to paint the picture for those out there that, everyone that's working on these remediation construction projects where there's a need to monitor. You mentioned the rules like 1466 and 403 in the LA area. Those are regulations. So you have to monitor for projects where there's toxic contaminants or just fugitive dust in general on these sites where there's an excavation, like you said. But outside of that, anywhere in the US and Canada, and abroad too, you have community pressure, you have liability. There's these other drivers that mean that you have to get data. And sometimes it's, CYA data. Sometimes it's data to have to show, liability to, the issues on site. Right. And we can talk about some of the tools that I know that you and your clients are using out there from Aeroqual and from the cloud to kind of help with that. But let's talk about this project because I know which project you're talking about. We've talked about it before, and it's really interesting. What in a short amount of time, I think what your client was able to accomplish and prove, right, just by putting some monitors on site. So, can you kind of walk us through a quick overview of that?
Yeah, so we installed 3 units, upwind and downwind, and then one completely to the other side of the site, which was in front of a housing estate that had just been opened up. So obviously, while they're building this new one, they wanted to make sure that the residents there weren't, getting dust that they didn't need. So,
Right.
and really that was to show every week, as a community project, that the dust, from the site was not heading their way. Also for the cost of the units that the client bought, he completely reduced the amount that he had to pay for washing the boats because, using the cloud that we have, that Aeroqual have, and then we have this site contribution app, which runs within the system.
Yeah.
You can see every 30 minutes, where the dust is, where it's going to, where it's come from. And, if there are many construction sites, and this is particular in LA, apart from this one, there are a lot of construction sites. And, so it's a good idea to have a wind vane. And in fact, the rules require a wind vane on one unit on the site. All this data coming together gives a really, really good picture at the end of the day or the end of the week to the community, to the regulatory service that most sites have to report to.
And so how long did it take? Well, don't tell me if you can't tell me, but how long did it take your client, with the liabilities they had from the dust? How long did it take for them to essentially pay off the monitors they got?
It was within, for what he had to do, we're talking about a month, and
Wow. Yeah.
So, but it's great working with clients like that. He told us what was required and what he was looking for, and some of the hardships he was going through. So we're able to design a monitoring system that would work for him. But also there was implications of trying to get like a solar system on a very high wall, which was right near this marina. So as much information as we get at the beginning, we can provide the system that will work for them.
Yeah. Look, I mean, a lot of your clients and a lot of these projects, especially if you have a short-term construction or demolition project, or, you talk to a customer, they say, look, we're going through this site. It's a Rule 1466 site, but it's one small parcel of this site. We're going to be excavating for a little bit. It's good for them to know that there are cost-effective solutions that are low maintenance, that you don't have to, that you can set and forget, and that you can repurpose, they have a long lifespan. You can repurpose them for project after project because, what the company's doing one project for 403 or 1466, there's going to be others, right?
Absolutely, and the beauty about these units, you can ship them overnight, and they can, you can be up and running in 30 minutes of them arriving on site with the courier. Just whether it's mains or solar, everything's built, so it's just click and play. You just have to turn it on, and your data will be there within a minute. That's the beauty about this. And apart from this client, we have a lot of factories that rent these out for a couple of weeks. They've installed some new machinery, for example, and they want to see what the effect is, the exposure to their workers, and so it's just one of those. You don't need to mobilize a full team to get these systems working. That's the beauty. They go in a pelly box in the courier, and they're up and running, and the client gets complete control of the data, and once it's finished, just packs it all up and sends it back.
Yeah, that's perfect. I mean, I love that example because it's typically on these sites, you'll have an upwind monitor and a downwind monitor at a minimum. And then, the sites are configured differently, right? So you have to build them out kind of custom. But what you want to know usually is, what's happening with respect to one of my monitors or the network of monitors on this site. And, having that weather station gives you a wind rose and a pollution rose to be able to tell, okay, at this monitor, over time, right? You look at it for a month, wind speed changes, wind direction changes, what happens to particulate when those things happen. And it does start to tell a picture. And everyone that's looking at these projects, for a solution for dust wants to paint a picture of what's going on, right?
Yeah.
So they can anticipate. And so it's great to see some of these pictures and what you guys have done on these projects to support a customer with those questions, because there's a lot to consider when you look at, how do I set this up? Where do I site monitors? All that stuff, right?
But yeah, as you say about the setup, when I just said in a couple of questions ago, is when you kind of mobilize these units for a client to set up and use himself. That's the beauty about the partnership we have, is that we've given you a lot of feedback, what's required on site, so people who are not in the business can get these working. And with the latest additions that we've got, or latest units which we're using, that's just so simple now. You've got a carry case a carry handle on the side. The internals are so easy to wire up if they want to add on extra units, and also you've got the facility to add on different microphones and vibration monitors as well. With
VOCs and
VOCs. So it's I think working together in this kind of group with feedback is important, and it's good that and I've always said to you guys that you kind of listen to us and give us what we want to make everybody's life easy.
Well, we appreciate the feedback, and we appreciate it from all of you watching too, because we'll continue to pull that into the products that we make and the updates we make to those products. Aeroqual is an agile company. You guys will hear me say that, but that means that we can get this feedback from from you guys, Paul, and from the industry, and take that into making a better tool for you. So the site contribution app, like you mentioned, to be able to do something, the data is the most important piece, but to be able to do something with it and act on it in real time, but know it's good and accurate as well, I think is the key, right? The data is what remains, to, on these projects to use in many different ways. So.
Yeah, the app's great. It's I think that's gonna really take off. Because that's really what you're using this data for, and sort of using Excel sheets to calculate it. Having it built into the job site you're on is just fantastic. You can see an example of it here. It's great.
Yeah. Well, I want to invite you guys to reach out to us, to reach out to Paul and Geo-Instruments and Aeroqual, and share your feedback, ask your questions, and comment here if there's anything that that you thought of from watching this video, or you want to see on the next one, and we'll try to use that and keep this thing rolling. So, any last comments or thoughts, or anything you want to leave us with?
No, just let's have a safe, happy new year. And as Drew just said, if dust monitoring is an important part of construction and many other industries, and not just these large boxes you see here. Well, they're not large; they're quite small. But also, have a look at the Aeroqual particulate monitors, which are handheld with all sorts of little attachments. Even these systems are even great for construction sites, where you have to have your dosage per day per man. A nice little system like this is great.
Well, yeah, thank you, Paul. Thanks for everything that you guys do for your clients, and all the support for Aeroqual. And yeah, if you have any questions or want to reach out to us, our contact info will be below. And everyone stay safe. And as Paul said, have a happy new year, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you. Bye.